On today's show, Locked On's NBA top 100 players list is here. 5 Cavs are on the list. We'll talk about who they are, where they are, and my thoughts on all of it on today's edition of Locked On Cavs.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? My name is Danny Cunningham, and you might know me from my time covering the Cleveland Cavaliers, places like my Substack, The Inside Shot, Cleveland Magazine, 92.3 The Fan, and a number of other stops along the way. And as we get started here, just want to say thank you to you for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today. And every day you can find the show anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, or anywhere else. Make sure to give us a 5-star rating, leave us a nice review, and of course, be a friend. Tell a friend about Locked On Cavs. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure a friend is subscribed as well. And if you're watching the show on YouTube as we get started, do us a favor. Hit that thumbs up button for us, click subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content, a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is here, and right now, new customers at FanDuel can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets. Download the FanDuel app today to get started. Locked On today released our NBA top 100 players list, where we put together all of the NBA hosts, or at least all of the hosts were instructed to. I don't know how many ballots exactly were turned in, but this was a pretty wide-ranging exercise. A lot of people participated in this. Of course, I participated in this as well. Had several episodes either late July or early August. Don't remember the exact time frame, where I talked through some of my decisions. I talked through where I had guys on the Cavaliers roster as far as who I thought belonged in the top 100 in the NBA, who I didn't think belonged. Well, now we have results. And 5 members of the Cleveland Cavaliers were voted as one of the top 100 players in the NBA for this upcoming season. And those 5 players are the 5 players that you would expect them to be. We've got Donovan Mitchell, we have Evan Mobley, Darius Garland, Jarrett Allen, and DeAndre Hunter. Those 5 all made the top 100. That is the order in which they were put in there. Not necessarily something that I completely agree with, and we will talk about that. But I want to start with Donovan Mitchell, because he was, as you might imagine, the highest ranked member of the Cavs in the NBA's top 100 for Locked On. Donovan Mitchell is 9th in our list. He is behind some guys he should be behind. Nikola Jokic, to no surprise, is Locked On's number 1 player. That is where I voted him. I would be surprised if he was not unanimously voted our top 100 or our top player. I don't know that. I've not seen every single ballot, but I'd be surprised if anyone voted anyone else number 1 in the NBA. If they did, they were wrong. But Nikola Jokic, the number 1 player. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the number 2 player. Giannis Antetokounmpo, the number 3 player. No disagreements there. Luka Doncic, the number 4 player. Again, no disagreement. Now is where we get to the range where I think Donovan Mitchell belongs. And that top 4, I think, is pretty set in stone. Maybe you can quibble with, should Giannis be number 2? Should Luka be number 3? Like that debate is there. That's not the debate we're going to have on this podcast episode. I'm sure Locked On Lakers and Locked On Bucks and Locked On Thunder will talk about all of that stuff, but that's not what we're going to do here at Locked On Cavs. So when I did my voting, and I went very in depth on this in the episodes where I talked about this, I put Donovan Mitchell number 5, which admittedly is a little bit high for, he's number 9. Number 5 is certainly on the high end. There's no way anybody voted him ahead of number 5. I wouldn't be surprised if other people maybe got there. 5 was certainly on the high end, though. Steph Curry was number 5. And Steph is, of course, the greatest shooter of all time, one of the best players in NBA history. I do not think there are only 4 players in the NBA better than him right now. In fact, I think Donovan Mitchell right now is better than Steph Curry at this point. Number 6 was Anthony Edwards. I think it's very close between Anthony Edwards and Donovan Mitchell. I would very slightly take Donovan. I think a year from now, we're probably talking more about, is Anthony Edwards breaking down the door to be in that number 4 spot or number 5 spot? But right now, I've got Donovan by a little bit. Number 7 was Victor Wembanyama. And this is the one that I think I most disagree with, because Victor has not, he's done a lot of really good things, but the sample size for him is so small. I think we all expect at some point Victor Wembanyama will get to maybe best player in the world, consensus top 5 player in the world. Like those are places I think we all expect him to get to, but he's not there yet. He's not the number 7 player in basketball yet. I think that this is certainly quite a bit of a projection. And part of this is trying to project where guys are going to be this season and what their seasons are going to be like. But I think that this is too high for Victor Wembanyama. When I did my vote, I'm very high on Victor Wembanyama. I had him 12th, but that is certainly in that next tier of player. I think that this is a little too close to the top 5 for somebody who has not made an all NBA team. He would have this year, but he didn't. He only played 50 games. Had he played a full season last year, maybe this is a different conversation. But because he's played 1.5 seasons of basketball where he has, played less than 150 games in his career by quite a few. I don't have the exact number of games that he's played off the top of my head, but I think that's a little bit high for Victor Wembanyama. That is probably the one that I disagree with the most. Jalen Brunson was number 8. Again, I think it's very, very close between he and Donovan Mitchell. I put Donovan one spot ahead of Jalen Brunson in my top 100, but Jalen Brunson being one spot ahead of Donovan Mitchell overall, I just really don't think there's a big gripe with. So I do think Donovan should have been a little higher, but I think he's in the right tier. And that's the thing to me that ultimately should matter the most, is that he is in the right tier of players. He is exactly where he should be. Maybe not the exact number, but he's in the conversation, I think, 5 through 9 or 10. Jason Tatum was number 10. Had he not torn his Achilles, I'd be very interested to see where he would be. I think I had him at number 11, and having that injury, I think, really complicated it for me and probably a lot of other people as well. Kevin Durant was number 11, again, taking Donovan Mitchell over him. LeBron James was number 12, which I think is probably pretty fair. The fact that he's at his age and still considered to be the 12th best player in basketball, I think is a wildly impressive thing. But the overarching point here is, since Donovan Mitchell arrived from the Utah Jazz, just over 3 years ago at this point, he was acquired by the Cavs in early September. Since that date, Donovan Mitchell has played 3 seasons with the Cavs. He's made 2 All-NBA teams, one of them All-NBA second team, his first year in Cleveland, and first team All-NBA this past season. He had 1 year that was a little interrupted by injuries. He did not reach that 65-game requirement, but when he was healthy, he was a top 10 player. And Donovan Mitchell has been, throughout his entire tenure with the Cleveland Cavaliers, a top 10 player in basketball. That's what he's been. That is what I expect him to continue to be moving forward. I don't know how much longer. I think when we do this list next year, we'll still be talking about Donovan Mitchell as a top 10 player. 2 years from now, I'm not sure that we will, but I don't think that he's going to have some dramatic fall off in the very near future. So I do think it's important to look at this list. Remember, Donovan has been really, really great. And the Cavs are really, really good right now and a championship contender for a lot of reasons. But you cannot be a championship contender, in my opinion, without having somebody in this top 10. And I think it's really important that the Cavs do. And I also think it's really important that while Donovan is the only top 10 player that the Cavs do have 2 guys in the top 20, because Evan Mobley came in at number 16. We'll talk about who surrounds him, where I thought he should have been, where I think he could be next year, and how important it is that the Cavs have 2 guys in the top 20. We'll do that next, right here on Locked On Cavs. Today's show brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here. We've got Monday Night Football tonight, and FanDuel making sure that you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer, because right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use all across the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Maybe you bet on the Cleveland Browns on Sunday. Maybe you did. Let's talk about this for just a second. If you took the Browns plus 5.5, bravo, good job. I liked that bet. I didn't love that bet just because I have a personal rule, and that personal rule is never trust the Cleveland Browns. So I did not trust the Cleveland Browns on Sunday. I thought about it. I thought long and hard about it. But I did kind of have a rough day with college football on Saturday. Did not pick a lot of winners on FanDuel, unfortunately. So I was a little bit lighter on Sunday. If you had the Browns on the money line, I feel so bad because, man, 2 missed kicks, a missed extra point, a gimme field goal that was a miss, 2 dropped passes that would have led to a first down on a drive that ended in a turnover on downs, 2 dropped passes on plays that ended in interceptions that very, very seriously cost the Browns. Man, rough day to be a Browns fan, even rougher if you had the Browns on the money line. But tonight we've got Monday Night Football. We've got Bears, we've got Vikings, and this could be your opportunity to get that back. Or if you've never made a bet with FanDuel, what you need to do, you need to download that FanDuel Sportsbook app or head to FanDuel.com. That is FanDuel.com. Sign up today. Place a $5 bet. And if that $5 bet hits, you will get, wait for it, $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app and, of course, FanDuel.com. So if you're ready to play, download the FanDuel Sportsbook app now and visit FanDuel.com. That is FanDuel.com. Again, FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet because it could lead to $300 in bonus bets. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Thank you again for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. And like I said earlier, you can find the show anywhere you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, or anywhere else. Make sure to drop us a 5-star rating, leave us a nice review, and of course, be a friend. Tell a friend about the show. And as I mentioned at the end of the last segment, Evan Mobley was ranked the number 16 player in the NBA for this upcoming season. I voted Evan at number 15 in my personal top 100. So this is the one that is very, very close. And I really can't push back too much. So he is, as we mentioned, LeBron James at number 12. Tyrese Halliburton was number 13. I think a very tricky one to rank given his Achilles injury, the fact that he will not play this year. I think that certainly complicates things quite a bit. Anthony Davis, the number 14 player in the NBA for this season. I had him at number 14, one spot ahead of Evan. And the guy that is ahead of Evan, and I really can't push back on this too much, but the guy that is ahead of Evan that I did not have ahead of Evan is Cade Cunningham. Cade is at number 15, coming off an all-NBA season of his own, coming off getting MVP votes for the very first time in his career, the same way that Evan Mobley also got MVP votes for the first time in his career this past season. And I think that this is the exact ballpark Evan should be in. I think that Evan is going to take another step forward offensively this year. He's going to be the anchor of a championship caliber defense. He's going to be a focal point of a championship caliber offense. Maybe it's not going to be the best offense in NBA history, the way it was flirting with last year, but they're going to be very, very good offensively again. And I just look at what he has done throughout the first few seasons of his career. And yes, he's only made one all-star team. And yes, he's only made one second-team All-NBA. But I think those are going to be constants moving forward. I think Evan is going to continue to be the guy that he was during this season, where he's going to be a force to be reckoned with, not just defensively, but on both ends of the floor. I do believe that his three-point volume is going to go up a little bit more. I think we're going to see a bit of an uptick there. And I just think he's going to be a guy that is going to be so difficult for opposing teams to stop night in and night out. And I do think that 1 year from now, the conversation that I will be really interested in, because if you can't tell, I am a believer in Evan Mobley. I think he's going to continue to be awesome. Does Evan Mobley belong in the top 10 a year from now? That to me is one of the questions that could define this Cavs season. And I will probably do an episode maybe later this week, maybe early next week on questions that will define the Cavs season. But that is one of them to me, because he very clearly has all of the skills that are needed to have that sort of performance, to have that sort of impact on the Cavs or across the NBA. I look at what he did this past year, and as I mentioned, second team All-NBA, defensive player of the year. And I just think, okay, maybe that's not the floor for him, because as we have seen injuries happen, but I think the ceiling for him is so high. I'm not going to sit here and say I expect Evan Mobley to be somebody that is in the top 5 next year or in the first team All-NBA ranks next year. But I also think that's coming. Like, I think that is going to be sooner than later. I think next year is probably going to be Evan Mobley, talking about second team All NBA. Maybe he gets some first team All NBA votes. Maybe he picks up more than just one fifth place MVP vote this upcoming season. I think all of those things are in play for Evan Mobley. So I think having him number 16 overall is a fairly appropriate place for him to be. Now, a few guys that he is ahead of that I certainly do agree with. Kawhi Leonard comes in at number 17. He is actually, this is kind of funny because Cade Cunningham, I had at number 19. I had him a few spots behind Evan Mobley, who I had at number 15. But the guys I had immediately behind Evan Mobley were Kawhi Leonard, Devin Booker, and Jalen Williams. And the guys that are immediately behind Evan Mobley in our top 100, Kawhi Leonard, Devin Booker, Karl Anthony Towns, and Jalen Williams. Now, Karl Anthony Towns, I had a little bit lower down the list. I had him at 23. The NBA top 100 list has him at number 19. Like, that's not a crazy difference. But I think that this is the kind of player that he's with right now. And Kawhi Leonard, of course, has been in the news quite a bit with the controversy going on with the Los Angeles Clippers and whether or not they circumvented the salary cap in order to have Kawhi Leonard there, which is a fascinating conversation and something I have very much wanted to talk about and probably will be talking about at some point. But I think that right now, Evan's better than those guys. And Jalen Williams is maybe the one that I could really listen to an argument here for, that maybe because he's done it in the playoffs at the level that he's done it at. But right now, in terms of two-way impact, I look at that list of guys, and I even look at Cade Cunningham too. And Cade is awesome. And outside of Pistons fans, you're not going to find many people that appreciate and like Cade's game much more than I do. And it's not just because we have the same last name, but I look at this and say, Evan has done more than Cade. Evan has done enough to warrant being considered a top 15 player. I think it's appropriate being in this, again, kind of ballpark this tier. Like, the exact order, I don't know, is something that I can get all that fired up about. But I think that, yes, coming in number 16 means he's not considered a top 15 player in basketball, which is kind of the thing that I disagree with, just the notion of that. And of course, you do have to look at, well, it means there are 15 guys that are also really, really, really good. And it is a hard discussion to have, or a hard debate to have, like, who would you kick out? But Evan Mobley, to me, is going to be a perennial All-NBA player. The things that he can do on both ends of the floor are absolutely fantastic. And I look at that and say, to me, what he brings is top 15 in the NBA type of stuff. And I think that this season for Evan is only going to further solidify how the NBA world looks at Evan Mobley. Now, the number 3 player on this list for the Cavs was Darius Garland. As you might imagine, he came in at number 27. He is in a very interesting pocket of players. And I want to talk about who's directly in front of him, who is directly beneath him. I want to talk about Darius plus those players next, right here on Locked On Cavs. Thank you again for making Locked On Cavs your first watch or listen today and every day. If you are watching the show on YouTube, the best way you can help grow this channel is do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. And if you are watching the video, also toss us a thumbs up as well. Darius Garland came in as the number 27 ranked player in Locked On's top 100. I had Darius Garland at number 26. So while I was maybe just a smidge higher than what we have him at, I do think it's a very interesting conversation, the guys that are around him. So I talked through the top 20 already. Just want to read off the names. The first few don't really pertain to this conversation, but as we get close to Darius, I do think it becomes a really interesting thing. So as I mentioned, after Evan Mobley, Kawhi Leonard, 17, Devin Booker, 18, Karl Towns, 19, Jalen Williams at number 20. 21 was Jaylen Brown. 22, Pascal Siakam. 23, Paolo Banchero. 24, James Harden. 25, Jaren Jackson Jr. Number 26, Trae Young. And number 27, Darius Garland. Now, before we get to the guys after Darius Garland, the couple that I look at here that I think I have an issue with are Trae Young and James Harden. Now, those two guys, I think it's fair to say, are maybe a little bit more accomplished. James Harden, former MVP of the NBA, certainly more accomplished than Darius Garland. And I think that had Darius not been battling through the foot injury he was battling through in the postseason this year, he is ahead of those guys. Now, James Harden had a terrific final couple of months of the season. I don't think Trae Young was good enough last year. He was fine, but I look at his shooting numbers and just say, you know what, for somebody that is as high of a volume type of player as Trae Young is, I don't know that he was a good enough shooter from the outside with what his shot volume looks like, because he is somebody that is a 34% three-point shooter from beyond the arc last year. He shot 41% from the floor. Those numbers, and yes, Trae Young is a fantastic passer, and he is a fantastic player. Like, he's a top 35 player to me in the NBA, and neither one of these players, to be clear here, neither one of these players is a good defender. Now, Darius is a better defender than Trae Young, but neither one of these guys should be considered good defenders. I really don't factor defense too much into this specific conversation. When I'm comparing Trae Young to Darius Garland, like, who would I rather have play defense? The answer is Darius Garland, but the real answer is I would rather somebody other than both of them out there defensively if you have the option. So I look at what Trae has done, and he's also not been, in my opinion, and I know how this sounds because the Atlanta Hawks went to a conference finals a few years ago, but I also look at it and say Trae Young has really just been a play-in type of guy. If you look at not the totality of his career, and yes, as I mentioned, they went to a conference finals, and that is something that he has over Darius Garland, and he's been the best player on a lot of these teams. And Darius Garland has not been the best player on the Cavs because the Cavs have Donovan Mitchell and they have Evan Mobley. But I look at Darius Garland's game and just think it contributes more to winning than what Trae Young's does. And I think Trae, as I have mentioned, is a very, very good player. I just think that he is somebody that right now, if I had to take my pick as to what player can help me win a little bit better, Darius Garland being the better shooter, maybe he's not going to rack up the same assist numbers, but I also look at it and say, could he do that if he had the usage rate that Trae Young does, if he played in the offensive system Trae Young does, if he played without Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley? Probably. I think he probably has those things plus a little bit better shooting, because I do think that is the one thing that I don't really think is much of a discussion is Darius Garland is a better shooter than Trae Young. But I look at all that and say, yeah, I think Darius is a little bit better than Trae Young. I don't look at this as that big of a deal, but I do think that's kind of where we're at. And then the guys after Darius Garland that I find to be very interesting are Ja Morant at number 28, which is certainly higher than I had him, but I do think Ja Morant, of course, is a very good player. His issue is just that he's not on the floor quite enough. Jimmy Butler, who comes in at number 29, who, if this is solely about the regular season, Darius Garland clears Jimmy Butler, and I don't think it's much of a discussion. But when you include the playoffs, it's hard to think that way because of how good Jimmy Butler has been in the postseason. But when you do add in the fact that this is kind of sort of supposed to be projecting towards the next season, it's hard for me to say, yeah, Jimmy Butler's going to go out and have a great season in Golden State. And I don't know what the Warriors are going to look like in the postseason. I don't know if the Warriors are going to get to the postseason. That, to me, opens up the door. I had Darius very slightly ahead of Jimmy Butler in my personal rankings, but I thought it was very interesting that the rest of the staff found that to be true. Chet Holmgren was at number 30, which I had him right in the same area. I had him one spot ahead of Darius Garland. So if there's one guy I look at, say, yeah, maybe that guy should have been ahead of Darius Garland. Chet Holmgren is somebody that I think is really, really good. Bam Adebayo came in at number 31, which I think that is a very interesting place for him. I wonder if Bam could go out and have a great year, especially if you listen to some of the crossover episodes I did where I had Wes Goldberg from Locked On Heat on my show. He seems to think that Bam is going to have a great season, and I certainly don't disagree with that. De'Aaron Fox came in at number 33, Jamal Murray number 34, Derek White number 37, Tyrese Maxey number 38. There are a lot of really good guards. Kind of the point that I want to wrap up the Darius Garland conversation with. There are a lot of really good guards in the NBA. Obviously, you don't need me to tell you that. You know that. But there are also a lot of really good guards in the NBA that Darius Garland is better than. And the point guard position right now might be as talented, if not more talented, than it has ever been in the league's history, just in terms of guys that can do so many different things, that they can set others up, they can break defenses down, they can go get their own bucket. And the fact that right now the Cavs have a point guard as highly thought of as Darius Garland, I think is a really, really good thing. Now, 4 and 5 for the Cavs were Jarrett Allen, who came in at number 57, and DeAndre Hunter all the way down at number 88. Now, I thought Jarrett Allen ranked a little bit higher than I had anticipated. As you know, if you listen to this show, I had Jarrett Allen in the 60s. I had him at number 62. So having him at 57, not crazy. Like, that's not a crazy outlier, but I actually had DeAndre Hunter one spot ahead of Jarrett Allen in my personal rankings. And DeAndre Hunter in the Locked On Top 100 all the way down at number 88. Now, of the guys on the Cavs that were listed in the top 100, this is the one that I disagree with the most. I think that he should be higher up than what he is. There are some names on this list that I look at and say, who would you rather have? Would you rather have Michael Porter Jr. at number 79, or would you rather have DeAndre Hunter? I would rather have DeAndre Hunter, someone that provides stuff on both ends of the floor. Who would you rather have? Paul George and his knees that don't work, or would you rather have DeAndre Hunter? Paul George came in at number 76. Again, DeAndre Hunter, number 88. I would certainly take DeAndre Hunter over him. Who would you rather have? Zach LaVine, who I'm not sure contributes much to winning, or DeAndre Hunter? Now, maybe that's a little bit unfair because LaVine is more of in a star role, high usage role than DeAndre Hunter is. But I look at that and say, that's just, to me, I would rather have the guy that I think impacts winning a little bit more. Now, guys that are around Hunter, Herb Jones, Asar Thompson, I don't necessarily hate those guys. I think that they should probably be higher than, I should say. Of course, I don't hate those guys. I don't hate where those guys are. I think they should probably be higher a little bit too. Emmanuel Quickly, somebody that I would put DeAndre Hunter over. Josh Hart, I think, is a very interesting conversation. Bradley Beal was one spot behind him, which I think is too high for Bradley Beal. Aaron Nesmith is at number 90. I actually think there's a case Aaron Nesmith could be ahead of DeAndre Hunter. So I do think that at the bottom of this list, this is actually where I have a little bit more in terms of disagreement. Now, as I mentioned, Jarrett Allen is at number 57. He is behind the likes of, we'll go 50 down. Tyler Hero was number 50. Rudy Gobert, number 51. Joel Embiid, very interesting case there. Number 52. Draymond Green, number 53. Damian Lillard, number 54. Of course, will not play at all this season, I imagine. Lauri Markkanen, former Cav, number 55. Trey Murphy, the third, at number 56. Jarrett Allen, 57. Austin Reeves, 58. I thought that was a little low for Austin Reeves. Mikal Bridges at number 59. Norm Powell at number 60. Dyson Daniels at number 61. I do think there's a case that Jarrett Allen belongs in the 60s. But I also look at it and say, this guy is a really, really productive player, just happens to kind of only be that productive in the regular season. So I look at that and say, yeah, maybe I can see how we get to 57. I think that the postseason for me matters a little bit more. So that's why I think that I have him a little bit lower. But again, it's in a very similar ballpark. So to wrap up there, I think that DeAndre Hunter is the one on the Cavs that was ranked a little bit too low. But ultimately, the Cavs have 5 guys in the top 100, and that is a very, very healthy place to be. They've got 2 guys in the top 20. They're one of just 4 teams that have 2 guys in the top 20, with the Lakers having Luka Doncic and LeBron James, of course. The Thunder having Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Jalen Williams. The New York Knicks having Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns. And, of course, the Cleveland Cavaliers having Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley. So it's a very, very healthy place for this franchise to be. And I believe, I've not done this math, I believe they are the only team with 3 top 27 players, because Darius Garland's 27th. But I believe also the Cavs and Oklahoma City are the 2 teams that have 3 top 30 players. So ultimately, the Cavs have a lot of talent. We know this. You didn't need to listen to this episode specifically to learn that, but they've got a lot of guys that are highly thought of, and we will talk a little bit more in depth about some certain rankings with the Cavs as the week goes on. It's going to be a bit of a top 100 themed week. I will talk about what I think this list could look like next year. So that'll all be straight ahead this week coming up on Locked On Cavs. I would love to know, however, what you disagree with from this top 100. You can email the show, locavsmailbag@gmail.com, comment on YouTube, or send it my way on social media. So thank you, of course, for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today. And every day you can find the show anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, or anywhere else. Make sure to drop us a 5-star rating. Leave us a nice review. Be a friend. Tell a friend about Locked On Cavs. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure a friend is subscribed as well. And if you're watching the show on YouTube, do us a favor. Hit that thumbs up button for us. Click subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content. And I will be back tomorrow talking more about the Cleveland Cavaliers.